Bob. This week we decided to sorry, I'm just
You okay?
total. I think I just had a stroke.
You all right?
We're doing our favorite beater watches this week. So we asked you guys to send us your favorites, what you guys wear when you want to just kick it, and lots of responses. Really appreciate you guys reaching back out. We went into our safes. We grabbed a bunch of stuff. Maybe some different price points of beaters.
I was going to say, you know, we have to preface this conversation with the fact that, like, one man's beater is another man's holy grail.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, this term, there's a lot of flexibility here because depending upon your comfort level with, you know, what you're comfortable spending on a watch, what you're comfortable wearing on your wrist, and what you consider to be a beater, right? Like, does that mean that you'll, I don't know, do yard work with it on? Does that mean that you'll wear it while bicycling or golf? Or like, what does it, what does that mean to you?
I mean,
and it
so
means
like
something different to everybody.
Rob and I both went into our personal watch boxes at home. We grabbed some stuff that, you know, honestly, the stuff that I brought doesn't really see the light of day all that often, except for, wait for it, Robert, both of our beaters for rainy days and, you know, just whenever we're doing anything. I mean, so my Explorer 1016, I've worn it mowing the lawn, you know, hiking, when I had a boat, you know, working on the boat, like dumb stuff. So this is, you know, for me, this is the piece that I go to when I need a durable watch that will take a beating. You know, take a kicking and take a licking and keep on ticking. That old Timex thing, you know.
It also, though, you know, you think about Rolex and how Rolex started. It was a tool watch, right? Because everything that was kind of pre-quartz crisis was a very different frame than the way we look at the watch industry now. Because it was a lot more purpose-built thing. Sure, you had things like gold day-dates and stuff like that. That was meant to be this elegant, formal piece of jewelry. But a lot of what Rolex made was a purpose-built, steel, tough-as-nails tool watch.
I mean, and to be fair, most of what they still make it does still fall into that category. People's perception of the brand and, you know, that is really what has changed. Rolex itself hasn't really changed. They still make
but they
steel,
have, because they've really elevated a lot of what they're doing in terms of the materials that they use and things like that. Like, some of it has been in the interest of durability. Like, you think about moving to the ceramic bezels and stuff. But I remember when the ceramic bezels came out and everybody was like, this is terrible because they've put this material here on a sport watch that is very brittle and therefore could be more fragile than aluminum depending upon how you look at it. So
before we get too deep, we decided to go real classy, and because we're talking about beater watches, we went with the champagne of beers, Miller High Life. Can't beat it. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers to all
everybody.
of you.
Why don't we go through some of the stuff that you and I brought first, Rob? I feel like before we get into the table, let's talk about what we personally wear as our personal beaters.
And we'll talk about two
flavors with those guys first
of Rolex Explorer. I always forget
cloth.
A cloth. Gentlemen,
I don't
who's
have one
got
either.
a cloth?
We'll grab them.
So let's go to the close-up here.
Wrist cam.
Because these will both definitely
guys, there's two cloths right
have
there.
fingerprints on them.
I have had that watch for almost 7 years, and I don't know if I've ever actually... Oh, no, I've probably washed it. I've washed it. I take care of my stuff.
So we'll start with Justin's here. This is a 1016 from the 80s?
Yeah, this is late 80s, so I wanted... You know, obviously there's all different... Rolex made the 1016 forever. There's all different flavors. You know, you can go gilt dial. You can go, you know, super creamy lume. You can go folded links. You know, you can go a million different ways with it. I really wanted one from the end of production that has that really white lume. I don't even know why that was what I wanted at the time, and I still love it, and I still beat it up.
This looks mint.
Yeah, it's
like in terms of the dial in the hands, like this is mint. And this is an original tritium dial. This is not, for those of you playing the home game, this is not a redial or a service dial. This is all original tritium. But I mean, that's minty, minty, minty.
I think it's an 88, maybe an 89, something like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it was a lot cleaner when I got it, and I've put my own dings, dents, and scratches on it, and I love it. it's just an absolute workhorse.
Mine is very much the same. Mine is a newer variant. Mine is from 2001, I believe. This is the 114-270. So this has the solid end lengths, and this has a Luminova dial in hands. And mine, very similarly, you know, I have put many marks. I don't know if you can see them. Like, there's definitely marks on the bezel.
Yeah, same.
There's marks on the bracelet, because I have worn this for a lot of my life. I got this in 2016. It was my first real watch, quote unquote, and it is very dear to me. This is, if I had to sell everything else, the Patek Perpetual would go. Like, if my back was against the wall and I had to. And this would stay. 36 millimeters.
It's perfect. It doesn't matter how big your wrist is. Like, so, and this is actually a good point. You and I have very different sized wrists.
Yeah,
I'm about 6.5. You're, I don't know,
7
12 3/4 or something. But the 36 mil Explorer looks great. You know, it looks really nice no matter what wrist, you know, what size wrist you have. I mean, you and I both wear these with suits. You know, if it's a rainy day, or guys want to switch back, rainy day, snowy day, whatever, like you and I often throw these on, and it's, again, it slips under a cuff. It's small. Even though it's very simple, it's still like a very classy, you know, very elegant piece. So I love this.
I'll do pretty much everything with this except put it in the water.
Exactly. Rob and I have talked about this a lot, where like this, they both have screw down crowns. They're both rated to whatever the, you know, the Rolex rating, depth rating is. I'll like wash my hands and do the dishes wearing this. I don't, you know, other pieces that I have, I take off when I do the dishes, but I would never swim with it. That's just a personal decision.
And for me, it's like, it's about going in the water.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't wear it in the pool. I wouldn't wear it that way. Not because I worry about the watch per se, because I do think it probably would be fine.
Totally.
But I've also seen what watch
Yeah, I know. We've seen the horror stories. So.
And it's not good. So I don't chance it.
Going, you know, kind of in like a, I feel like these are two similar, actually they're both Swatch products. Two more pieces that you and I kind of have as beater pieces. You know, Rob's got the Moonswatch. That's the mission to Mars, right?
Pluto.
Oh, mission to Pluto. Cool. Okay. I thought about getting one. I never got around to it. But again, like, just, you don't have to worry about it, and it's still a great watch. Like there was so much like discussion and gnashing of teeth when these came out about how it was cheapening the Omega brand and blah 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 blah. But it's really a great watch. It wears nicely. It's the right size. Like,
it works on a lot of different straps. Yeah. I usually have it on a NATO. This Velcro is what it came with, and I actually like it better than I thought I would.
It's very cool, actually.
But yeah, it's a good watch, and it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have more fun with $200.
I was gonna say, you paid $200 for it, and very similarly. So this is a System 51 Swatch. This was one of the early Hodinkee editions that they did. That I actually bought. I bought on the I think I bought on eBay for less than retail.
Look at that finishing.
Look at it. Look at that machine robot finishing. But again, like, it's on a really nice, soft, pliable, like silicone strap. It's like the lightest thing of all time because it's made of plastic. Yeah. But I don't even care. Like, honestly,
it's cool though. It's vibey. So I mean, look at that vibe.
I wear that.
I'd wear that.
I wear that to the beach. I just mess around with that. Like, do whatever. It's cool.
I love the vibe.
It's a lot of fun.
I wanted one of these, but I wasn't fast enough. So Vimal asked us, why not just get the 36 date just over the Explorer? And if you did like a 36 date just smooth bezel, you do have a very fair comparison there.
Similar.
I can give my reason, and I think it might be similar to yours.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
But for me, there's something about the stories that get connected to a watch that add to the romance of what that object is. Because at the end of the day, it's just a thing, right? It's like, it's not a big deal. And like the Explorer is like the most kind of, it is a watch. Right?
Yeah,
because it's like, there's no date, there's no nothing. It's just, it's the time, and it's very simple. It's very understated. But it's a watch that Rolex designed from the beginning to like summit Everest, right? That was what Edmund Hillary had on his wrist when he summited Everest. It's like, it's got that history attached to it, and for me, I love that. For the same reason that I love a Speedmaster and want to get like a nice old patina Speedmaster, because it is the watch that went into space and went to the moon. And there's something very cool about stuff that was designed to push the limits of like what we can do as human
Yeah,
beings.
I mean,
Whether it's the bottom of the ocean.
exactly.
Or outer
It's the
space.
same thing. I mean, I've talked about it a lot. You know, I've said many times previously that like, you know, I appreciate movement, you know, mechanical specifications and depth rating and power reserves and all this kind of stuff because I'm in the industry. But it's really the stories, you know, about why the watch was designed, who wore it, you know, what the piece is known for. That is what really speaks to me. So like Rob said, you know, the classic Rolex advertisement of, you know, the climber's hand hanging on the Matterhorn
so
wearing
good.
the 1016,
Wearing your
wearing
watch.
this
Yeah,
one
it looks so
is
good.
what is like burned in my brain. I don't even remember when I first saw that, probably
Yeah.
as a kid or something. And, you know, for whatever reason, that just stuck with me. And honestly, too, like there are little differences between, you know, the Datejust and the 1016 or the Explorer, even from the same generations, you know,
Oh, yeah.
whereas like, you know, obviously with your piece, you're getting some Arabics, you're getting those, you know, those thicker loomed indices. You know, on mine, there was never a Datejust that had this format dial, you know, just
They also
the matte
don't do the
dial like
Mercedes
this.
hands.
They don't do the
on
Mercedes
Datejust.
hands.
For me, if I'm buying a Datejust, I want a fluted bezel.
Agreed.
And maybe a Jubilee.
Yep, I definitely want a Jubilee for sure.
Because that's the look of that watch for me.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Like that's the iconic Datejust, if you think about it, is a fluted bezel.
Yep. And I mean, Vimal, that's not to say, you know, Datejusts are incredible. Like we've had so many. I mean, I remember we had a yellow gold Datejust on a yellow gold Jubilee, which like
with the black dial.
defeats the purpose of buying a Datejust. But like it was 36, and if that came back again, first of all, when it was here, we had the exact same configuration date, 36 mil yellow gold, you know, the whole thing, and I would have taken the Datejust every single time.
Yeah, it was
over
cool.
the
because of that yellow gold Jubilee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So super cool. There are so many Datejust variants out there, and they make for incredible beater watches because you can spend $3,500 and get a steel Datejust from the 80s or whatever, and just like beat the ever-living crap out of it and not care.
And some of those, like the engine turn ones, what's that, the 1603 or something like that, can be very cool, a lot of vibe.
For sure.
Great watches. And that is a great beater. I totally would go in for one of those as a watch that I would plan to wear, you know, till I'm blue in the face. Yeah. And doing all kinds of things.
Where do you want to go next? Because we can go anywhere here.
Well, it's funny because we've really got the gamut. Let's talk for a second kind of about, like we're talking about value and things like that. So let's grab a couple of the things that I think here represent
our incredible value.
Yeah, represent like a watch that really is, in my opinion, a beater has to be something that's not so precious that you're stressed about it.
Sure.
But also it's tough enough to hold up to whatever kind of activity you plan on wearing this watch where you normally wouldn't.
Well, I mean, we've said so many times what's in your left hand right now that you cannot do better for under 5K, you know, for more durability, more quality, just, you know, build quality than a Tudor, than anything from the Blancpain line right now, you know, anything from, you know, the Ranger line. I mean, it's perfect.
This is the 58. So this is the 39, right? 39 millimeter Blancpain. If I put it next to my 36 Explorer, it's funny, the dial's really not that much bigger.
No.
So it has, you know, the bezel obviously gets beyond that, but it's very funny how the size of the dial really informs the size of the watch. And I think that's why, as a guy, I still wear a 36 like this and feel completely comfortable with it because the dial is damn near the same size as this 39.
Right.
And I think even on the wrist,
it wears
you get a real
incredibly
similar kind of presence.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, is it like kind of I wish I had a sub kind of thing? Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is.
But so, you know what, we always talk about, you know, subs. I love subs. We have a bunch on the table. We've both kind of like, you own one for a while. You had a vintage one. Yeah, that you missed.
Lovely watch.
I have almost bought a Kermit like more times than I can
So
count at this
few
point.
times.
We love subs. There's, again, because they've made it for 70 years or whatever, there are so many different variants and you can get so much value out of them. But it is a piece that everybody knows what it is. You know, I don't know. There's pros and cons to being like an iconic model that everybody recognizes. So I don't necessarily see like the Black Bay as being like a knockoff sub. You know what I mean? Yeah, it looks like a gilt, you know,
this to me has so
small
many
crown
things
or
you
something.
can't get in a sub though. Yeah, you have no crown guards, which looks great. You have a gilt dial, which looks great. You get the red triangle,
Yeah.
which looks great. If this was a vintage sub in my hands, and like in this kind of condition,
Well, yeah.
this would be what, 200 grand or
Yeah.
something absurd like that. Like,
I mean, but you also get those like the snowflake hands.
it's
you know,
impossible.
You
And
get these giant, you know, loom plots that look super cool on the dial. Like you have, you know, you got a faux rivet bracelet, which like say
It's
what
cool.
say what you will about, you know, faux anything, but I think it looks awesome.
I was going to quickly contrast that to the white dial GMT that they did, which again I think is really cool because this watch does not exist from the older brother Rolex. Ah, we left the wrap on the glass.
Huh.
It wears bigger. I'm going to put
This
the other
this
41
does
on.
this
But,
does wear bigger, but
again,
they did release a smaller one recently.
For the GMT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still fantastic. And these, the reliability of these, we haven't had these come back. You know, we haven't even done many like customer repairs where like somebody has broke them, you know, through doing something. So I think that those are pretty good. And then the last one we had here, oh, it's okay, is this is like the Explorer-ish kind of variant that they make. I think this is called the Black Bay
Heritage.
Yeah. I knew it was one of those. I was going to say classic, but and in this case a blue dial. And it's kind of cool. It's almost like a blue OP-ish kind of vibe, smooth bezel. This is also 41. But it's not gargantuan. I can wear it.
I mean, for anybody that comes to me and says, you know, hey, I want to spend, you know, $5 grand or less. I want a real watch, and you know, I don't know where to go. I want something durable that I can wear all the time, and you know, I'm gonna have one watch kind of thing. Like 9 times out of 10, I want something modern. I want something new. 9 times out of 10, I tell them grab a Tudor because you really can't beat it. I mean, one of the first like real watch that I bought. I bought the original Black Bay, you know, just the giant
black one, right?
Yeah, the Black Bay black. You know, it was way too big for my wrist, but like I loved it, and I wore it a ton until I ended up trading it for like a Blancpain or something.
I wear a watch that's technically too big for my wrist all the time these days, and I enjoy every second of it.
Before we go too much further, so Jake Bookspan, actually, we have 2 comments that kind of go together. So Scott I on YouTube asked for a beater. Do you prefer stainless, titanium, or ceramic? And Jake Bookspan over on Instagram.
We got it.
Jake Bookspan over on Instagram asked, "Is that a titanium Yacht-Master staring me in the face?" And yes, it is. So
we should talk about that.
We should talk about that.
We should talk about that. Real quick though, Mission to Earth. That's the blue and green one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The more bold color choices on the Moonswatch to me are, I don't know, they're not what I would go for, but maybe that's because I'm boring. Like I like how this has that touch of burgundy.
I don't even know which one it is. I like the all black one.
That's the Moon.
Is it?
Or you mean the one, like the Snoopy one they did?
I don't know. Well, the Snoopy one's cool, but one of the original one that was like basically very monochromatic.
The Moon.
Must have been the Moon.
Or Mercury. One of those.
I don't know.
Anyway, they're very cool. And it's nice that they have all those different flavors.
Okay, so let's grab that Yacht-Master then. So this is the new Yacht-Master, Rolex Yacht-Master full titanium that was introduced a year ago now. This was at 2023 at Watches and Wonders, correct?
Yes.
It was either 23 or 22. I can't remember now.
No, it was 23.
23.
23.
So we waited literally
a year.
A full year plus to finally see one of these pieces come through.
I feel like they shipped very few in the beginning.
They did.
We're getting offered more now, but in the beginning there were very few.
We have 2 currently in inventory. I think this one's available right now. This is the, you know, brand new. This one's unworn except for on Robert's wrist in a minute. Fully stickered, you know, full hang tags, everything. So
this and the Deep Sea Challenge are the first 2 watches Rolex has ever made in full titanium.
Right.
Because they did the titanium case backs on the Deep Sea, but this was really something different. I found when I had it in real life, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but the finish on this is really different. It's a really interesting texture, and I wonder if it's just the way the titanium takes the brushing or something. But
so when that came in, you know, we all kind of looked at it, and like you said, it doesn't have that same texture that we're so familiar with steel Rolex.
Yeah.
And we talked to the restoration crew and asked them, you know, hey, like, what's the deal with this? And that's exactly what they said, is that titanium takes a finish so differently. It's so much more difficult to work with than steel, that I'm sure that's just the finish that Rolex had to go with on the...
Look at these chamfers, though. I actually hadn't noticed these. This is like...
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, actually.
That's like an old school chamfer.
Yeah.
I love that. You don't see that on modern subs. You don't see that on GMTs. Why did they do that here? That's so interesting to me.
So Jake wanted to hear our opinions on this one, and I'm very impressed by this. I do wish that it was the smaller case size. It's interesting. So the white gold version of this on the Oyster Flex strap, that one I can actually pull off, and that works. For whatever reason, the titanium bracelet, it ends up wearing large for me. I don't know. I have no idea why. That's like probably some funky, you know, issue specific to my wrist or whatever. But for me, it wears too large. But it's cool, man. A full titanium bracelet like this from Rolex is really impressive.
It's incredibly light. I love this bezel.
Me too.
I think this bezel against that kind of gunmetal gray that you get from the titanium is really, really pretty.
Yeah.
This, I don't have to wipe this. It doesn't show fingerprints. Look at
wild.
that. I can.
What's that? The matte dial.
Yeah, matte finish on the dial. There's a lot of nice things about this watch. Yeah, they killed it. I don't know what to say. I think they really did. Like, with most stuff that Rolex does, when they do something new, I feel like they put enough thought and effort into it that by the time they release it, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's good. You know, it's very good. It's a finished, polished product.
For sure.
And
they're not going to code 1159 anything, you know?
Right, where it took, there was a year, there was like code 1159 beta, and then there was the real deal.
So this literally just hit our website. It's listed as incoming for $35,900. Really, really cool piece, really interesting. Back to the question that we had, I can't remember what the gentleman's name was on YouTube, but Scott, yes, asking whether we prefer steel, titanium, or ceramic for a beater watch, and I definitely prefer steel. It's, as much as, you know, everything that we just said about this titanium piece is incredible, but titanium scares me for, I don't want to have to worry about my beater watch. Steel, like, again, I have done stupid things wearing this watch, and you really wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to have this refinished, it would look brand new. Yeah. You know, it would be easy and no problem whatsoever. Yeah. Titanium is not so easy, so I don't necessarily think of titanium as a beater watch.
Well, you know what's funny, too, is that titanium, to me, it's not the way the material wears in terms of, like, the finish and everything. To me, I'm not, like, lightness to me isn't like, whoa, I like that. Like, in a guitar, I like it to be light because I don't want to have shoulder problems. But in terms of, like, a watch, I actually like it to have some heft. Okay. It's just like you slam the door on a nice car and you get a good chunk. It's like the weight of a heavy watch to me is pleasing. Yeah, so
agreed.
I often, like, when I pick stuff up and it's light, I'll be impressed by it, but it doesn't make me want to own it, if that makes sense.
What are your feelings on ceramic for
So, I like ceramic. I've never owned one, so I don't have that, like, experience of, like, owning a ceramic watch. But one of the things I wanted to pull for this was an IWC Pilot Chrono, because it's another one of those watches that I've liked since I first started getting into watches. I just always liked the aesthetic of that and the look of that. And I think some of these ceramic ones that they do are really awesome.
They are, yeah. And they've done, I mean, we've shown them before too, but, you know, recently IWC started moving into the colored ceramics. So you have, you know, the Mojave, you have the Evergreen, you got all the, you know, the white one where the Lake Tahoe, I think. So, you know, pretty cool what they're doing now. This is, I believe, a Blue Angels.
This is a Blue Angels
limited edition,
right? Yeah. Yep. Blue Angels.
How many pieces did they do for this guy?
I'm going to pull it out of the camera for just a moment to see if it's on the back. I don't see it.
I'll look it up.
You can look it up.
Yeah.
But ceramic case, I believe this is a 43 or something like that.
Big.
So this falls in between, like, a regular Pilot watch and the big Pilot, which is nice. It's not terribly thick. It's not, like, going to overwhelm.
It's 44 and a half, actually.
It's 44 and a half.
Yeah, it's big.
Wow.
Big,
it doesn't feel it, though. It doesn't feel it. It's also, like, this is a nice balance. This is not too heavy, but also not too light. This is like Goldilocks effect for me. I think this would be very comfortable to wear. I like the color scheme. I like the details on the dial, the navigator style with the minutes around the outside and the hours on that inside track. Start the chrono there. Nice looking watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't normally think of chronos as as like beaters, but I agree with you on this. This. I mean, and so this is in stock and available on our site for 7,000.
Wow,
$7,000.
That's
so like
really not bad.
Yeah. So for full ceramic case, you get titanium deployant clasp. I think it's a titanium case back actually as well.
These pushers and crown are definitely titanium.
Yep.
This looks titanium too in terms of the finish and everything. And the cool thing about it is it's not like hit you over the head with the whole Blue Angels thing. So like even if you didn't know about what they are and what they do and you didn't care, it wouldn't matter because it's just aesthetically a really nice looking watch. But yeah, I like this a lot. I would wear this. And I would wear this while doing all kinds of sport activities.
Yeah, and you could, you actually could with this one. And it's funny, so like I think that ceramic technology has come a long way in the past 10, 15 years, because we both, I would say, grab a bunch of other ceramics. We'll talk about all the ceramics in a minute.
I don't think this is ceramic, though, is it?
I'll look it up in a minute. That Breitling,
I think
I'm
the
not
Breitling
sure.
is an imposter.
Okay. But so what I was saying with the ceramic, you and I will both remember, seeing some older IWC ceramics that, the material was far more brittle, where a client I remember a client dropped one on a tile floor and the mid case cracked, and remember sending it back to IWC for service and getting like a $12,000 bill because it needed a completely new ceramic mid case. Yeah. And again, that was a much, much older, that was probably a 15 or 20-year-old, an early ceramic piece from IWC. So things have changed. They're still not going to be as durable as, say,
it is still a brittle
steel
material.
Or even titanium, but it is brittle. It won't scratch. It doesn't conduct heat or whatever. But if you do drop it or you do bang it off of, a stone wall or something, there is the chance that it's going to, crack or shatter on you.
So I wanted to go to this next because I feel like this, if we're talking ceramic, this goes to the same kind of zone and level as the same kind of like aesthetic idea as the IWC, but this goes up a notch, in my opinion.
Definitely.
This horologically, I think is a step up. You look at the finish on this, and it's really, really beautiful. I don't know what it is about the way they treat their ceramic or something, but it's got this brushed finish that's very much like a stainless case. You have a blue ceramic case in this case, with I believe it's a titanium bezel, and then the insert is blue as well, so you get this beautiful blue-gray blue and then back to gray with the dial.
I really wish we had just a classic steel Bathyscaphe right now in stock.
That would be better.
That, when I think of, a real, durable, purpose-built piece, like this, I think of the classic steel version, with that ceramic bezel, that black ceramic bezel.
Without ruining it, but there is a very nicely finished in-house movement in here. This is the Ocean Commitment. I believe this is Ocean Commitment 3.
Yep.
I believe it was the last one they did. I think they only did 3 of them. But very cool watch in that ceramic case. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's another one that
43
I want to own one of the vintage ones at some point. A vintage Bathyscaphe or vintage 50 Fathoms, just because again, the story speaks to me. The Jacques Cousteau connection.
I was going to say again, a watch built for pushing our limits.
Right.
And then
you're right. The Breitling is DLC
this
coated
is coded,
steel, so
right?
That's a whole other thing.
So here's the thing with that is like some people will look at this and say, oh, it's coated, it's gonna get scratched and it's gonna and it's like, so here's the thing for all the people who are like, oh, that's so cool, but what if I'm spelunking and I knock it into the wall and I crack my ceramic
I bump
case?
into a stalactite.
Exactly, yeah. Or you're climbing El Cap and you fall and it cracks the case or something. So you don't want ceramic, but you like that look. Here you are.
Yeah.
And yes, this is going to get scratched up, but if you're in that camp where you're like, I want this as a beater and I'm going to use this and I'm going to wear this in all kinds of different situations, that kind of patina could be nice.
Right.
If you're not the kind of collector who moves in and out of things a lot and you tend to keep stuff more often, you know, I think wear and patina on some watches can look really,
Well,
really
I
good.
also think that no matter what, like no matter what style of collecting or watch, you know, enthusiast you are, I think that everybody in this hobby should have that one piece that like they do own and they do keep for a long time, and they do wear, you know, in these situations that we're kind of describing. Like you and I, you know, we both have our Explorers, and they serve that role, and they serve that purpose where, you know, we have plenty of other pieces that we could throw on, but you know, if when times get tough or you know the going gets rough, like whatever, those are the pieces that we grab. So I don't know. I mean, and
It's like an anchor piece.
yeah, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
You need that kind of thing there.
And back to the DLC coatings, like again, this isn't the, you know, the 70s DLC coating that you would see on like vintage Hoyers and stuff that was basically like a gummy finish that was just, you know, like slapped onto a steel watch that literally 2 hours later was like flaking off or, you know, scratching off. Like these are much more durable than they once were, than it was.
If you think about a watch that has that kind of coating on it, I think of the Lagerfeld 15202.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that, look up Karl Lagerfeld AP or Karl Lagerfeld Royal Oak. He had, actually it was a 5402, right? It was an old school
I don't know if it was
Royal
a
Oak.
5402. I thought it was a smaller diameter, but
he had it DLC coated or PVD'd, one of those things.
It was PVD'd, yeah.
And he wore it a ton, and it was wearing off and flaking and everything. And to me, it looks incredible.
It does.
And if I was the guy, like if I owned it and I put that wear on there, I would be so on.
I mean, like you're saying, that's one that you got to own. You know, obviously in his case, you know, he chose to coat it because he was going to have it and whatever and wear it forever. But like, if you choose to do something like that or own a piece like that, like you're saying,
it's a commitment.
You got to commit to it. And you got to keep it. And like again, those kinds of pieces, they develop interesting patina and like interesting peculiarities and like unique characteristics that are only there because you're the person that was wearing it. If I wore the same watch, like it wouldn't look the same as you know, because you live your life differently, whatever.
Exactly.
You know, so it's cool.
Well, it's kind of like
I was gonna
this
say
thing.
Exactly.
You've led us perfectly. It's almost like you thought about that segue. It's like this. So material number 3, we've covered steel.
Yeah.
We've covered titanium. We've covered ceramic. Material number 3, and what is kind of a trend at the moment, is bronze.
Right. And it's kind of died out a little bit. You know, there were, I feel like, honestly, the, guys, if you want to, the first time I remember seeing it was with those Orises. Do you remember those? Like the Carl Brashear Orises or whatever?
Oh, I thought the Panerais were first.
No, you're probably right. You're right. You're right. The Panerai Bronzo was definitely first.
Right.
But then all of a sudden it felt like everybody was making, you know, a bronze piece. And you know, case in point, here you go. You got a Tudor Blancpain, you know, in the smaller case size. That
this is the 58. They do make a bigger bronze as well.
They do.
This is the 58 bronze with a full bronze bracelet.
It's wild.
And you can see this is not shiny and new and lovely. This has started to oxidize and get patina. Some people speed it up by putting it in different kinds of materials and things. I've seen like people on the internet doing different kind of tests where they're like, if I soak it in this, what does it do? If I put it in seawater, what does it do? And, you know, some of them end up looking pretty gnarly, which if that's your thing, that's awesome.
Well, so I have a client in Miami who has a Panerai Bronzo, and, you know, he lives in Miami. It's like 100 degrees and, you know, 150% humidity every single day. And it's the most patinated thing I've ever seen. It's actually green at some, you know, in like crusty green in some places. And, you know, you can, you know, bring them back to, you know, even if, say, you know, Rob, you wore this for, you know, 5 years and it was like grimy and patinaed and green, you know, there are ways to bring them back. You know, you have to.
And there are ways to bring it back without polishing it.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
You don't necessarily have to polish it. If you polish it, it will look brand new, but you can also do like some baking soda vinegar.
Exactly,
kind of thing.
exactly.
And then we also have. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, move on to the IWC for sure.
Yeah, I believe this is one of the Galapagos Aquatimers, right?
Yep. I can't remember. This was, I want to see when this one came out.
And this is kind of interesting because, like, I feel like the Aquatimer for IWC has always been kind of a strange watch. The original ones, where they were in the like the Ocean 2000 case, where they were relatives to those original Porsche design watches, Those were very cool.
Those were,
I
yeah.
really like those. And then as IWC evolved and stuff, it became more of its...
Well, sorry, go ahead, continue.
It became more of its own thing, and you started to see more of this kind of style with the compressor case. And a compressor case is where the bezel is kind of within the watch instead of being on the outside. This still does rotate, and the whole crystal rotates on top. Some of the compressor cases will have a crown for actuating the bezel within the watch. And then this has the chronograph feature on it too. I don't think I gave it enough lines. Maybe not.
A little bit there.
It'll run for a little bit. And then it's got some kind of valve on the side for some kind of gas escapement while you're diving. Oh, it's Darwin.
It's the Charles Darwin, which was a continuation of the Galapagos collection, essentially.
Same idea.
Yeah,
same idea. HMS Beagle. Big watch. This has got to be, I'd say this is a 45.
I think
46.
so. I got to look, yeah.
But the thickness is massive. And to me, this is going to look better with patina
44
than this.
You think so?
Don't ask me why,
I don't know
but
if
I feel like this, like it's starting to get it already. Like look at the side of the bezel there. I actually like it on this one. I also like that the case back is not bronze on this. I feel like this I would actually wear, whereas in the other one I wouldn't.
Really? See, and that's interesting because I'm the exact opposite where I actually prefer that the case back on this is bronze. You know, Tudor really committed and, you know, first of all, full bracelet in bronze, you know, the rivet bracelet in bronze, the full bronze case back, bronze clasp. Like, if you're gonna do it, you got to do it all the way. And I would much rather wear this and get this grimy and gross and just like messed up. Yeah,
I like this. I think this is cooler looking.
Whatever, you're wrong, but that's fine.
No way. This is cooler. This is more watch.
Why don't we go?
Probably more money, but.
Good question, actually. I kind of want to know now. Let's see.
This has got to be more money. This is an in-house IWC flyback chrono.
Would you like to guess how much that one is, Robert?
No.
So the IWC we have listed for
more than the Tudor.
79. Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
And look, it's got this.
That's 7,900. And
change.
yeah, the bronze Tudor's 3,600
yeah,
bucks.
So
like
it's twice as much.
Come on, $3,600. Like this is this is I don't know. This is better. This is better.
I'd get this. I'd throw it on a NATO, and I'd wear it. It'd be good. Trust me.
Yeah, NATO would make a difference, but it still doesn't save that watch.
So,
do you want to go to your favorite brand of all time, or should we go super high end first?
I was actually, that's more what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You read my mind. I was gonna say, let's change perspectives.
Yes.
And imagine that we are billionaires.
I like this game.
And we are looking for a beater.
Yeah.
Right? Because when the funds are unlimited, what
the calculation
changes
changes,
a beater, right? Yeah, exactly. Like your tolerance for what you'll wear, like the RM Survivor.
Yeah.
Right, which was I remember when it came out, and I was reading one of the like introductory articles on it.
Yeah.
And they were saying it was like the billionaire secret handshake to say you like camping or something like that, which I thought was really funny, because RM made this watch that probably is extremely tough and durable.
Sure.
But it was $1 million.
Right.
It was $1 million.
All right. Well, case in point, grab that RM right there. So hold on, I want to.
I'm going to let you talk about
this is the St. Barth's. I want to get the correct. I think it's an RM60, but let me see.
Yeah, I know you've got it there. And
So it's the RM60-01. It's a flyback regatta chrono. It's the St. Barth's edition. So, you know, made in, I'm going to tell you how many limited edition pieces because I don't, 50 pieces, you know, for the Lavoie de St. Barth's, you know, so the super, you know, super yachts, sailing super yachts that converge on St. Barth's annually to race, you know.
Scott said the IWC was too thick. So we're going to +1 you there, Scott.
I mean, that's 17.8 millimeters thick. Like, that's thick.
That's the size of the strap on my 3940.
So, I mean, so it's 50 mil in diameter. It's massive, you know, regatta chrono, you know, flyback regatta chrono.
But I mean, if you're buying an RM, you're not trying to be subtle.
No, of course not.
Right? You're
course
not trying to be subtle. And RM to me has always been really interesting because it's like, okay, we're going to make some of the most technologically advanced watches that we can.
Yeah.
And we're going to make them durable. We're going to make it so that one of the, you know, the tennis player who hits harder than almost anybody else can wear this watch in a match.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to design this watch so that you can play golf with it.
Right.
Because golf is actually really rough on watches.
Yes, it is.
We don't always recommend it.
No, well,
but
we don't ever recommend it.
Some people do choose to play golf with watches on. And, you know, you don't realize kind of the shock that travels up your arm when you make contact with the ball there. But yeah, so, you know, these watches, while they are incredibly complex and very high-end in terms of the watchmaking, they are also quite durable, and they're designed to be used in this way. That's why they have rubber straps on them. That's why the case is built like an absolute tank.
Right. And I mean, look at, you know, the capabilities that this watch has, you know, beyond just the 30-minute, you know, regatta flyback countdown, you know, so for when you want to line up your yacht with the starting line and, you know, when they sound the horn, you got 30 minutes left, there you go, you know, click, click, and, you know, start the regatta, you know, the countdown timer. But beyond that, you know, you also get, you know, a bezel that you can, I don't know how, but
there's a way to unlock that,
There's a way to unlock it, and then you can set it, you know, match it with the, you know, the compass points where you are locally. You know, you can track. Let me look at it real quick.
It's the sky on the side.
Yeah, position of the sun. You know, and then the points of the compass. Like, this watch is incredibly capable. It's incredibly complicated and incredibly difficult to. You know, I feel like I would need a PhD to know exactly how to set it and actually use it, but the capabilities, like you said, of any RM, they're designing pieces to go to the extremes of you name it. It doesn't matter what. They're designing pieces that are incredibly capable at the absolute extreme of whatever, you know, activity you want to name.
But the other thing that I like about this is, like, even if you don't race sailboats, and even if you don't need to know where the sun is and all this other business, you can still strap this on and enjoy it and wear it and read the time and know what time it is. And this has a GMT as well.
It does, yeah.
Which is this button over here on the side. So it's like, you know, do you have to understand everything about a watch? Like, you know, I don't think most people wearing a Navitimer know how to use a slide rule. And it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Because who cares? It's still an awesome watch with a lot of history, or it's just this incredible machine. And to me, there's nothing wrong with that. So,
totally.
like, you know, if I wore this and somebody was like, how does it work? I'd be like, oh.
I don't know, but it looks cool, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so going to the complete opposite end of the spectrum of the high-end beater watch, we're going to go completely simple, very straightforward, Patek 5167 Aquanaut.
This, I think, obviously the RM is contentious, right? Because, like, how much is this? 100 grand?
That's 119, I believe.
119.
For, you know, on our secondary retail website, yes.
Yeah. So $119,000, is that a beater? Would you, the people of YouTube and Instagram, wear this watch while, I don't know, racing your sailboat?
Watch Medicine said he could enjoy letting go of his 5-pound dumbbells if he got that RM. And actually, it's a lot lighter than you'd think. So you would still need to buy, like, you know, 10 of those to get the same
It's
effect.
probably titanium, right?
I believe so. I don't know off the top of my head. It has to be, right? Hold on, let me look.
I think that's titanium, because if this was steel, this would be 10
Yeah, it's
pounds.
titanium, of course.
Yeah, it is titanium. So this is such an interesting watch, because
it is.
When Patek introduced the 5167 into the lineup, it was meant to be not entry level per se, but it was meant to be a sport watch.
Of course.
Right? This was not. This was not like the Nautilus. This doesn't have that beautiful kind of Genesis
It wasn't
story.
meant to be a status symbol. It wasn't meant to, you know, signify anything. It was literally just supposed to be, like you said, Patek's foray into simple, durable sport watch. You know, that's really it. And they nailed it. I mean, obviously, this is what, third generation? 5167 was third generation?
66.
5066,
65
5065, and then 5167, right?
Well, then you get like the 5165.
Right,
actually, the
that was at the same
5060
time.
was the first one.
All right, whatever. This
Anyway.
is multiple generations into the Aquanaut family line. You know, it obviously grew over time. The strap, the texture stayed the same, but, you know, it changed. I personally prefer, like, the size of the 5066 or even the 5165.
Yeah,
but I
cool
love
watch.
the old strap, those skinnier, older straps on the 5066 and whatnot.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. If I was buying a Patek sport watch, I would rather have this than a Nautilus.
Agreed.
I really like this watch. I like the dial. I
Yeah.
like the continuity of the dial to the strap. I don't know why. There's something about this that to me is so much more appealing. I would wear this with a jacket and tie the way I'm dressed today and be completely fine with it. But that bezel.
Yeah. Scratch magnet.
That bezel tells no, or has no secrets.
Right.
That bezel tells all.
Yeah, exactly. But you
and-
know what is cool? So it's really funny, but I remember pre-pandemic at this point, but my wife and I were on vacation. We were in Italy, and we were at this like really awesome hotel on the coast. And I remember we checked in, we went to our room, and we went down to get lunch. And we walk into like the terrace cafe at the hotel and everything, and it was full of like old Italian men. And no lie, like every other old rich Italian dude had either a 5167 or like a 5066 on their wrist,
Yeah.
gold, steel, whatever, and they were all trashed. The watches were beat to absolute hell, and they looked awesome. It was just like old leathery Italian dudes smoking cigs, dressed to the nines with their beat up Aquanaut on, and I was like, I mean, life goals right there. Like,
in many ways, that is the ultimate flex.
Yeah.
Right? That is the ultimate flex. Not to say that you don't care about it. I'm not talking about disrespecting the watch.
Of
because
course.
that is very frustrating.
Agreed.
For people like us who do this for a living and take these watches in. Like, there is normal wear and tear that watches are going to take.
Mm-hmm.
Some people choose not to wear stuff. Some people really baby stuff. Some people are very condition dependent. Some people aren't. You know, there's a range, and I'm not going to say any one type of collecting is better than any other. But if you disrespect it, that to me is like, that's too far.
There's a big difference
That kills
between disrespecting and like wearing and loving and
Yes.
getting a ton of use out of, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember, I mean, what was the account of the Nautilus, the everyday Nautilus or the scratchy Nautilus?
Oh,
or
the loved Patek.
the loved Patek or something. Wasn't that Spanish Rob?
Spanish Rob.
So
I was
Spanish
trying to think
Rob
of
on
his real name.
Instagram, he had you know, a 5711.
A Tiffany.
A Tiffany 5711, yeah,
5711.
that he bought at retail, which, like, that whole story is awesome in and of itself. But then he went on and he wore it, like, every day for, like, a long period of time. And the watch got, you know, it was
showed daily wear.
Exactly. It
That's
very
all.
clearly had been worn a lot. It
Yeah.
wasn't that it was abused.
No.
It wasn't that it was beat. It was worn regularly. It showed it, and it looked awesome.
And had it been sent to Patek, they could have brought that watch
Sure,
back. There
'cause
was
it's
nothing
steel.
on there that would have like killed it.
Right.
And to me, I'm with you 100%. Like, I like to see something that has some character, has some life,
Mm-hmm.
has lived a bit of life. You know, it's kind of like the difference between like seeing a person who has aged and seeing somebody who's had all of this ridiculous plastic surgery to make you think they haven't aged,
Right.
but really they look like some kind of monster at this point. So,
Agreed.
you know, I think that like watches, you know, if you think about them the way I do as these beautiful everyday things that we can use and enjoy, that also have this beautiful elegance to them, that are also mechanically interesting and amazing and have longevity,
Yeah.
you're going to get marks on them. And so I would love to do that. I would love to own a Patek Aquanaut and wear it and really make it my own.
Just go to town with it.
Couple comments here. 5167 1A, is it more sporty? Akil is asking.
So honestly, the Aquanaut for me, it has to be on a rubber strap. It loses a lot when it gets put on a steel bracelet. I also think that the design of the steel bracelets, whether it's the 5167, whether it's the older version, they're just not great.
It's not my favorite bracelet.
The design is not
I wouldn't
great.
choose it.
And again, like, there's something really special about that rubber tropic strap that.
To me, that should be on a strap. Nautilus should be on a bracelet.
Agreed. It should never be.
That's my
Right.
own
I agree.
thing. Is like, if I bought a Nautilus, I'd want it on a bracelet.
Yeah.
If I bought an Aquanaut, I want it on a strap.
Yeah.
If I bought a Speedmaster, I'd probably wear it both ways because I enjoy that watch on a bracelet and a strap.
No, that's got to be on a bracelet as well.
No way. I'm throwing it on that one that lets you lash it to your thigh like an astronaut. And then Watch Medicine said the 5167 is the really elegant beater watch, and it absolutely is. It's thin. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's the Cosmonaut story?
I wonder if he's talking about my Cosmonaut story, remember?
I know your Cosmonaut
All right, I'll tell it real
story.
quick. So this was years ago now, and I had a client.
So this goes back to when we were talking about whether or not you know how to use your watch.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
where the context for this comes in.
Yeah, right.
For those of you who don't free associate the way
I'm
my
not speaking poorly of anybody. I had a client, an older gentleman who bought a vintage Breitling, a yellow gold vintage Navitimer Cosmonaut. Super cool piece, really interesting.
So this is a watch with
ruler.
a 24-hour dial.
Thank you for giving away the story before I get there,
Oh,
Robert.
no, I thought you were starting with that.
No, okay, all right. So anyways, the dial, the Cosmonaut has a 24-hour dial. So you read it in military time, essentially. The hands go around once a day. So gentleman buys the watch, ship the watch to him. Next day I get a phone call. The watch is not running well. It's not keeping time. So sorry, it's vintage. Why don't I have my watchmaker take a look at it? Why don't you send it back to me? Sends it back. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the watch. Send it back to him. Next day I get another call. The watch is not running properly. It's losing time. I'm very unhappy. So sorry. Send the watch back to me again. I'll keep it over the weekend. We'll look at it. We'll try and figure it out, blah, 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 blah. Turns out the gentleman did not realize that it was a 24-hour dial, and he thought that the watch was running 12 hours slow over the course of 24 hours. So that is
so when you read that watch, 24 is at 12 o'clock, and then noon is, or actually 00 is up there, that 24th hour. And then noon is at 6. So when it looks like 6 o'clock, that's actually high noon. So it is, you'd have to relearn how to tell time, but it was kind of funny.
George just asked if we've come across the new version of the Cosmonaut yet, and no we have not.
He also said there's a happy medium between keeping a watch in its original wrapping and destroying it. And that's, I think, exactly what you and I are saying.
And honestly, like, not to toot our own horns, but I feel like our Explorers are a perfect example of that, where we value them, we appreciate them, we respect them, but we still wear them and we don't baby them, and they look great. So
Brendan on YouTube, that is correct, unfortunately. Spanish Rob's Patek was stolen. I think he told the story somewhere on his, actually he might have told it on Hodinkee.
I think he did, yeah.
I think there's a Hodinkee article about it. It is definitely the saddest part of our hobby is that these things do happen, and people do terrible things to each other. I hope one day he can recover that watch, because that was such a cool thing. There were so many people who would take pictures of it and stuff. And to me, that's the beauty of this hobby and what we do.
For sure.
So we have 8 minutes left.
All right, I was going to say, we have a couple more things on the table that I think we have to talk about.
I also, because all of you have been so lovely and active today, put in your favorite beaters in the chat.
Yeah,
I want to know, what do you guys, like both on Instagram, on YouTube, what's your beater watch?
A lot of you guys did tell us, so I'll run through a couple real quick. So Corey Cavallari said the Seiko XKX 007, which is like super classic. Obviously, I had a vintage Seiko diver that I wore for a long time on a NATO, loved it, and then it broke and I never fixed it. I don't know where it is, probably in a drawer somewhere, but super cool watch. Bob Sacamano 6 says Speedier Explorer II. Obviously, we agree with you.
Both of us owned an Explorer II.
I was going to say, I think there's one on the table.
There is.
So that, weirdly enough, I had this, I had this exact watch, so a 16570 black dial, tritium dial, nothing special. I had it for several years. It's one of the few watches that I actually really miss. I traded it, moved on to, I think, actually my 1016, and I really miss this watch. I love the 16570, and I think I probably someday will add another back to my collection, because it's just, I don't know what it is about it. It's got something really special. They're still cheap. Like,
I had a white one and I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
Man,
but
miss it again.
They go to the cause.
Jordan Krause said a black, just a standard black sub. Obviously, great watch.
Yep.
Systematic Entropy said the Rolex Sea Dweller 43 millimeter, which we have a couple different variants on the table right now. We have that vintage one, that transitional with the super creamy lume.
Yeah, I was looking for that.
There, right there. That thing is beautiful, 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 beautiful. We've said it again. I feel like we say this all the time, but if you're looking for an affordable piece with like a lot of vibe and a lot of quality, look at like 90s and early 2000s Rolex right now. They're undervalued.
Look at that.
Cheap, even 80s, like later,
lovely.
Transitional stuff. This thing is wild.
This, you put some wear and some scratches on this, this would look lovely. I love the fact that George said a day date. That's a flex and
Yeah,
a
but-
boss move. I love it.
Yeah, George is a boss, so that makes sense.
Rohit and I with the 11-4-270. My man.
There you go.
The best. Yes.
Let's see
And
what else we
then
got.
go back up. We had Scott with an Omega 300 titanium vintage, which I like that watch. That's a nice looking watch too. And then we got a Seiko SKX, a G-Shock, real beaters.
I would say I thought you were gonna bring your G-Shock.
I didn't bring my
I thought
G-Shock.
you were
I
going
guess I
to, buddy.
should have. So I do have, switch this back to the front there, David. I do have the John Mayer G-Shock
You
from
do?
Hodinkee. I love it. I wear it all the time. That's my getting wet watch. If there's going to be water involved, I wear that, and then I really don't care, and I love it. It's a great. My son calls it my adventure watch, which I
That's
think
cool.
is
I
great.
actually like
'Cause,
that.
like, you know, if we're going to be like in the woods or in the mountains,
Yeah.
and like, you know, I don't want to bring the Explorer just because I don't want to be thinking about that. You know, I want to have like a piece of kit more than a watch.
Sure.
I always wear that, and he wants one, so I got to find a baby G.
Oh, that'd be
For him, that'll
cool.
fit. I think for
There
his
you
next
go.
birthday, he's gonna get one of those.
Joe Granato said a Casio F84W. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that specific reference, but yeah, Casios. Like, come on, you can't beat them. M. Carnati said a Zin 556. Zin makes great, super durable pieces. Got Wire said a Coke GMT. Awesome, love it.
I shovel snow in my Helson bronze green dial diver. You know, I
That's
looked
cool.
at Helsons like way back when I like back before I worked here,
Yeah.
when I was like just looking at everything and looking for stuff that was more accessible
Sure.
than, you know, like Rolex and Omega and
Yeah.
those kind of brands. And I really wanted a Helson for a while there. I got real close. That's cool. And I wish I was shoveling snow. You and me,
no,
Saber.
get out of here. It's finally nice
I
here.
didn't shovel again.
Shut up,
I didn't
Rob.
shovel a
Jeez.
single scoop
Good,
of snow.
good.
All snow.
Have some more MGD.
All winter
all right,
long.
before we end,
Tudor
because
FXD. Yes.
before
love
we
it.
end, because you are the king of Panerai,
Yeah.
we could not have a beater watch show and
Nope.
not talk about Panerai. A couple other people, you know, when we asked, they did reply and say that, you know, many different Panerai references are their go-tos for, you know, when they want just a bang around piece. So Robert, take it away.
love my radio mirror. I didn't bring it today because I knew we had plenty in the safe. I think, you know, these watches, especially like this is a modern take on the original Panerais that were built as a piece of kit. This was a tool watch. This was meant to be extremely legible. No matter what situation you were in, it was meant to be durable. It was meant to be accurate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was meant to be a dive watch for Italian, you know, the Italian naval frogmen.
And like now, obviously, you get them where they are display backs, and I think this has like a 7 or an 8 day movement in it, something. Actually, maybe this is a 3 day because it's a 3000 caliber. But either way, it's like they're so cool. And we have a ceramic one, or no, sorry, Carbel. This is a Carbotech, which is very cool. It's a carbon fiber composite kind of material. It almost has like a wood grain to it, which I think is really, really beautiful. This is a 42 mil.
That thing is great.
Which, look at that.
Well, I
That
mean,
fits beautifully.
So not that it's really a beater, but show off the gold one. Like
Yes,
that, honestly, if I was gonna buy a Panerai, like, hell yeah, look at that thing. That is amazing.
This is so beautiful. These 42 mil submersibles
So
are
good.
stellar. They did a fantastic job with these. And then to do it in this gold and black, like if you put on the table, if you put a Rolex Yacht-Master rose gold on the black rubber, and you put this rose gold on the black rubber next to each other, I would have a very hard time.
That's a very interesting
I would have a
comparison that I
very
haven't
hard
really
time.
thought about.
Because it's that same idea.
It's the
that same
exact
kind of
same.
look of like, hey, here's a sport watch that is now in precious metal,
Yeah.
and then we're going to take that piece of precious metal and put it on a rubber strap. And it's like, I love that. I love that duality.
I do too. And that one specifically, again, like if I was gonna buy a Panerai, that's the direction I go. You know, the steel one with the blue bezel is awesome as well. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the smaller version of this guy here.
Yeah,
you know,
the flyback.
yeah, they're doing really interesting stuff. I really like what. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really like what Panerai is doing.
I mean, you have to like Panerai for what it is.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I like the brand so much is the fact that it is somewhat polarizing.
Sure.
Right? Like you don't meet people who kind of think it's just fine. It's like you either seem to really like it or you seem to really think it's dumb. Like there's no in between there.
There
And I
are still
kinda like
PANERAI does still make a lot of really dumb watches, but that's okay.
Yeah, but everybody does.
We didn't even talk. So like we didn't talk about the AP divers. We didn't talk about these Glasutas, the CQs, which are awesome.
Well, the Mars time.
The Mars time.
The titanium X33 that will tell you what time it is on Mars.
Just the the
Speaking of useful
classic Omega. You know, the Blancpain Scuba. Like they're like. I mean, I think it's very clear that, you know, beater watch is more of a state of mind than an actual category.
You're getting deep, man.
I know, man.
Getting deep.
But yeah, you know, whatever. Like there's so many good options at so many different price points. You know, really interesting pieces. You don't have to just wear, you know, like a, you know, I don't know, some garbage watch. You know, if you want to do something active.
And the other thing too is like a beater doesn't have to mean like, oh, I'm gonna climb a mountain and then trim the hedges when I get up there. Like that doesn't have to be that. It could just be, I wear this to the beach.
Yeah.
And I sit in the chair and I read my book and that's my beater.
That's your idea of hard work, Robert?
It could be,
okay.
Right?
True
like,
colors coming through
right
there.
You don't have to like service your lawnmower while you wear your watch. It could be whatever. I have done that with that Explorer on. Rohit said I had a Panerai and traded it and others towards a Patek, which is good, you know. Miss my Panerai. Need to add one back to the collection.
There you go.
We're here. We're here.
Robert will take very good care of you.
All
right, we got to go. It's after 6 o'clock.
This was fun though.
Yeah, easy. Plenty more to talk about, so I'm sure we'll do another one of these sometime soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you like what you see, make sure you do the old like and subscribe on YouTube. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Have a great week.
Thanks for